Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from. We'll get started in about 1 or 2 minutes in this Under the Hood session where we're going to kind of review our integration with Gateway Load Balancer on AWS and with a twist as we added to the title this time. Thanks for joining once again. We'll be starting in about a minute or two. Thank you.
So, Jeff, why don't we kick this off?
Sounds good.
All right, excellent. So, again, welcome to the Under the Hood session around how Checkpoint simplifies your AWS network security using Gateway Load Balancer. And Jeff is going to tell you about the twist a little bit later. Jeff is the cloud technical marketing expert and engineer. Jeff, why don't you take it off or take it away or whatever they say.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jonathan. Appreciate it. Yeah, so basically we're just going to do a quick agenda. The Checkpoint Advantage in combination with AWS, a quick overview and prerequisites, the reference architecture we're going to show today, the actual demo. So this is going to be a recorded demo. It's about 32 minutes long in the middle of this presentation where we're actually going to show you exactly what we're trying to get across today. So it's a combination of reviewing, and for some of you, this is going to be a recap and review of what we've already kind of gone over in previous webinars, deep dives, etc. But this time we're going to take a little bit different tactic and also show the benefits and ease of use of using CloudFormation templates to help you build your own environments really, really quickly and very, very easily, and without a lot of, basically no point and click. So that'll be nice, I think, for a lot of folks that aren't doing that already, or not quite comfortable, or know where to start. And then we'll jump after that demo is done, the video that's built into this chat. We'll talk about limitations and considerations going forward, show you some additional information, and recap the resources that are available to you as you go forward. And then just in general, regarding Q&A, go ahead and please ask questions all along the way. So happy to answer questions even during the video itself, since we'll be here live. That will not be an issue whatsoever. So happy to do that for you all. All right, so my camera's not working for some reason. I'm not sure why, Jonathan, so I apologize. It works on other platforms. I was on a Zoom here 4 minutes ago, or 15 minutes ago, and it worked just fine. Not sure why it's not
Don't worry about it too much.
But the demo, the testing works. So anyway, it's okay. My face isn't that pretty anyway.
You and me both.
A face for radio, as they say. All right, Jonathan, do you mind talking about the partnership real quick?
So sure, we are a long-term advanced technology partner of AWS. We work very closely together. In fact, we have weekly meetings, both marketing meetings, technology meetings, partnership meetings, business meetings, etc., etc. We have two AWS, what are they called? Networking and security certifications.
Competencies, yeah.
Competencies, exactly, that's the word. We, I think actually this product that we're talking about, Cloud Network Security, in a different name, I think was first launched on AWS, I think in 2012. So we're celebrating over 11 years. But Checkpoint specifically has a longer history. We've been around since 1993. We have been, and I think we need to update your slides because it's over 29 years. I think it's almost 30 years of cutting edge technologies. And we've been a leader in the Gartner Enterprise Firewall Magic Quadrant for the last 23 years continuously. And of course, global leader and all of those good things. Of course, we work very closely with AWS. We need to ensure that in order for our security solutions to be the best they can possibly be, we need to be as closely integrated with AWS capabilities, services, changes, and we need to make sure that our integrations with AWS services are cloud native, because to make sure that the solution is working as well as possible. Again, I don't want to go into this too much because this is Jeff's presentation and it's under the hood. It's not going to be a partner or a business presentation, so I'm going to stop talking and let Jeff continue.
Thanks, Jonathan. Appreciate that. All right. Quick overview and prerequisites. This, I'll add my little blurb. I'm a technical marketing engineer with the focus heavily on technical. That's my background. I was a former customer for 15 years before I came to Checkpoint, and in various roles here at Checkpoint, but mostly on the technical side. So this will be definitely more, in my goal is to make it definitely more technical than marketing per se, because we have nothing to hide. It's really showing what we have, because it, in my opinion, it really sells itself. So, all right. So gateway load balancer, what's the big deal? Like I said before, this is kind of going to be a review for a lot of you potentially, if you're not already familiar. But bottom line, and one of the bullets that's really not called out here is really just about, it can cover just about any use case in regards to east, west, north, south. The only thing it really can't cover, and we'll mention that later on in limitations, is VPN. It can't, we cannot do direct VPN terminations onto the gateway load balancer farm that we build as part of this. But outside of that, you have elastic scalability and resiliency, auto scaling and health checks to automatically route traffic to known good gateway. If there's issues, it doesn't send it to them. It makes sense. Takes a lot of manual labor off of your plate. Reduced network complexity. There's no natting. The way this works, and the slide that used to be in the previous deep dive session is not in this particular presentation, but basically using the Geneva protocol is essentially acts like a layer 2 firewall essentially. So we're just a recipient of the traffic that you want to inspect, and we make an accept or drop decision based on the policy you set for us, the security policy. It's really that simple. So once you steer traffic to us based on what you have defined in your networking inside AWS, it routes to us inside the, via the gateway load balancer endpoints, and we make a decision for you. Ease of use, and this is a key component of what today's chat is about, is deployment automation via CFT and eventually Terraform. So I know a lot of you probably use Terraform as well. In this particular scenario, we're using CFTs. And support for multiple networking technologies and topologies. So in this design, we're going to be using a transit gateway as part of our demo, but we can do just a normal security VPC setup as well. All right, so there are some questions already coming in, Jonathan. So if you don't mind jotting those down, or even pinging people offline here in case I can't get to it quickly enough, or maybe I can do it during the video. I guess I can catch up. All right, prerequisites and recommendations. So this one's going to be, I'm going to try to go nice and slow because this one's a little confusing if you're not fully aware of what's going on. So the initial support started with R80.40, and it required a special AMI on the gateway side in order to support the Geneva protocol. Beginning with 81.20, the Geneva protocol support is in the main train code, so it no longer requires a unique or a special AMI. So and I'll mention this a little bit in the presentation or in the video, where we I looked in the video and I intended to use 81.20 as the gateways, but ended up not actually going back and selecting it. But it does work. I have tested it. It works just fine. You can choose it yourself if you want to run the CFTs in your own lab environments. works just fine. But you don't need to choose or find a special AMI if you're doing your own customizations or creating your own CFTs. Just a general recommendation is pretty much might be a no-brainer for some of you. It's also recommended to deploy one gateway load balancer endpoint per AZ to avoid those cross AZ charges, which can be expensive. All right, the reference architecture, and this is a small sample of what you'll see in the video as well, and I'll point that out for you. But you might need to kind of zoom in a little bit or look closely at some of this wording. It's a little bit small on the screen, even for myself. But bottom line is you will have a VPC attachment per spoke into the transit gateway. There'll be a VPC attachment security or subnet per transit gateway per AZ, and then a gateway load balancer endpoint subnet per AZ as well, with the gateway load balancer endpoint inside each, which will then direct that traffic into the auto scaling group that will be doing the actual inspection for you. And so outside of that, you're just using your routing tables to steer the traffic appropriately into the gateway load balancer endpoint, which then sends it on to us for the inspection. All right. So we will be jumping into the video here in a second. Setup with IAC, configuration traffic flows. And if you want to kind of go along while we're doing the video, that's totally up to you. If you have, especially if you have two screens, feel free to kind of watch the video, but also have it running on the side, because it's going to be basically no different than you being there running it yourself in your own environment. You can definitely go out to this website, checkpoint.awsworkshop.io. That takes you right to where we're going to go in the video. So we will get started. All right, so let's get started. So I'm going to walk through this is relatively slowly. For some of you, this is going to be old hat. You can fast forward through the parts that you already know, but this is really meant to be educational for all levels of knowledge. So I apologize for some of you that this is going to be back to basics, so to speak, but I think it's beneficial for the most amount of people. And then this is something that people can go back to and look at and watch as they go. So as I mentioned in the presentation a little bit ago, as you know, this is recorded. I mentioned checkpoint.awsworkshop, checkpoint.awsworkshop.io. If you dropped off the checkpoint part, you would see the full list of options that are out there. But for us and for our purposes, this is the URL. You can go there right now if you wanted to and take a look yourself. And we're going to be walking through this basically tutorial and focusing on the CFT part. One thing that you'll notice as you walk through these pieces is that it does reference some things that are not going to look familiar, and that's because we do use this as part of other training programs. So on occasion we do immersion days, and immersion days are essentially like a 3 or 4 hour, not 4 hour, but 2 to 3 hour full-on hands-on workshop where you actually get access to a sandbox environment that us and AWS combined pay for, so that you can operate outside or outside of your own environment in a playground, so to speak. So anyway, long story short, the beauty of this design and beauty of this training is that we are, with CloudFormation, building this entire architecture, the entire thing, including the EC2s and all the examples, all of the route tables, all of the subnets, the attachments, the transit, the transit gateway, the gateway load balancer endpoints, everything. And a checkpoint security management server, everything, literally everything. The only thing we don't do automatically is create the security rules. And as you'll see as part of this video, I do speed through the things that do take a little while, and I'll explain why, and it'll make sense to you, because for the sake of time, it doesn't make sense for us to sit here and watch things kind of just spin. But long story short, in most cases when I run this, using the CloudFormation template that we provide, you can build this entire environment in your own tenant. That's the key. You have to be in your own tenancy. It takes about 30 minutes, and you have this entire, very complex, relatively complex, in my opinion, architecture built for you. And you can take that CFT and customize it to your needs. So we do have a disclaimer on this, CFT, that the one that builds this entire environment, is not really meant for production use, but it really is up to you. It's on you to configure it as you see fit, whether or not it fits your needs, to tweak the CIDR ranges, etc., the VPCs to fit your environment. And like I said, we provide you the CFT that includes all of these things, and you can tweak and edit as you see fit. And the other thing that you'll see if you were to dig into the CFT itself is that there's a lot of nested CloudFormation templates as well, and the majority of those, the ones that don't include all the customizations, the things that are not typical, like the building the EC2s and all the other customizations, those are referencing supported checkpoint CFTs that we provide for you, just in general. And if you weren't aware of that, we have an entire SK, and I mentioned that in the links list or the attachments list in the Bright Talk section. If you see that in there, this is the SK, and in here you'll find a wide range of different CFTs and, where applicable, Terraform templates for various designs, configurations, etc. So a little plug for that here. So to continuing on, let's go to the next arrow. Just talk about options, etc. We're going to be using the centralized architecture using the transit gateway in our example. And this is where you can kind of ignore, but here's the link. If you were to go to the initial setup section of the workshop, this is where you can download yourself the CFT that builds that entire environment. So I'll go ahead and do that for us here and save that off. And so we'll come back to that in a second. So that's the key thing. So let's assume, we'll assume that you have already logged into your AWS accounts. I'm going to kind of walk through this, pretending I don't have some of these things already kind of bookmarked, so to speak, or in my widgets. So a couple of gotchas. You will need a key pair if you don't already have a key pair defined in that region. If there's a key pair per region, or if you key pair per operation, depending on how you do your security. If you don't have one, you'll need one, because if you don't have one, it's going to ask for one as far as the initial, as far as the initial config goes. And if you don't have one to pick from, you won't be able to log into your devices to do configuration if you need to. So if you don't, just search for key pair, go to the key pair section and create a key pair. And there's pretty good instructions on how to do that with both Mac and or if you use BuddyGen to configure that key pair. The other gotcha that gets people at times is if you haven't subscribed to the marketplace item itself that we reference when we create the objects, and when we create the security gateways, security management, etc. You will need to quote unquote subscribe. And I'm not sure of a better way to describe it other than to go to the marketplace, find the marketplace item, and say, and click on subscription or subscribe. So I'm not being successful in finding a good way to simulate what I'm talking about, but basically, when you search for your items, the marketplace items we're talking about, they need subscriptions for. When you go to them, before you right now I'm obviously subscribed. There will be an option to subscribe to this product, so to speak. In this case, security management, BYOL. And you click subscribe, and then once that is set, then once you run your CloudFormation template, it won't throw you an error. So basically, if you don't do that first, it's going to throw you an error. So keep that in mind. So you're going to need to do, if you're doing R80.40, you will have to do specifically CloudGuard Network Security for Gateway Load Balancer, BYOL, or PAYGO. If you're doing R81.20, you can just use the standard CloudGuard Network Security offering, because we know it's included in the main train code now. A little confusing, so I apologize in advance. If you want to see it live, we can talk about that after we get off of this recorded portion of the presentation. So long story short, let's assume that we've got the subscribe now. We have our key pair configured and set up and ready to go. Now that we have that in place, we would now jump to CloudFormation. CloudFormation is where we would take our CFT and load it in. So I'm going to go to CloudFormation and say create stack. I'm going to do with new resources. I'm going to upload a template file, choose the file. I believe I put it on desktop. And it's this version. And next, give it a name. The stack name does not matter. It's simply for keeping track of CloudGuard, keeping track of different stacks you have running. But like I said, it doesn't really matter. It does not impact anything. Does not do anything per se. Load balancer 01. That's the workshop. And here's where you can. Just going to pause really quick. There's one question there about where to download the CFT. There was a spot in the video, and I don't remember the exact timing on it. But if you go to that checkpoint.awsworkshop.io page, if I go to my computer relatively quickly, it's one of the first sections. There's a link at the very top where you can download the full CFT under getting started, and then an initial setup. At the very top of the page for initial setup, there's a link on the right hand side, CGNS, Gateway Load Balancers, or GWLB CFT. So hopefully that gets you to where you need to go. And I'm getting answers for the other questions as well as best I can. All right, I will restart the video and configure various parameters. The CFT does provide for options, and you can change these. But these are what we provide out of the box to configure that sample architecture that we mentioned before. Here's where the key pair is selected or chosen. It does default to a different name, but this is not one that we actually have, so make sure you hit the drop down and pick one of the ones that actually exists in your region. This is the management server name. I am going to go ahead and choose 81.20. Just for reference, I think we mentioned that in the presentation. If we didn't, I'll do it now. The supported versions for the Gateway Load Balancer integration are R80.40, and it is a specific AMI that's required, but starting with 81.20, it is the standard AMI that we use for all of our solutions. But this, this is one of the things that the nice things about the CFT that we provide is that it is already built in for you. It's already selected for you. You don't need to go and find it. We're providing it for you automatically. We mentioned the hash for both the gateways and the management server here. To configure that, you just need to configure a password hash. I use get. I'll do it off screen here so you can't see my password. And paste that hash in. I'm going to do it in both places just for the sake of expediency. You can see I chose 81.20 already for management. That's the default. And you can see there's also pay-go options. And then for management, obviously you can use any version. That doesn't matter. Or a different environment. Click next. See if it errors out on us. Oh. Doesn't like the underscores. Next. Tags are optional. IAM role is optional. I like to select preserve successfully provisioned resources. This makes it easier. It doesn't, that doesn't automatically roll back automatically if there's an issue with provisioning. I can see what happened. I can learn from my mistakes. Same for termination protection. I don't want to accidentally delete what I've created without me going back in here and unchecking or changing this setting first. So it kind of gives me a second chance to if I didn't intend to actually delete a stack. I delete a CFT that I've provisioned things for. So once that is set up, click next again. This shows a summary of every option that you've configured. Make sure this is what you wanted. At the very bottom, you have 2 checkboxes to acknowledge. IAM resources custom names. And the fact that this is going to be an auto-scaling solution. And you're prepared to take on the resources. So yeah, if you're doing this in a live environment or a charged environment, a pay environment, you want to make sure to delete this stack, which will delete all the resources at the end of it, or just be aware of that and shut everything down, etc., so you don't get charged for usage that you're actually not using it for. If you're not using it for anything in production, you want to make sure everything's shut down as best you can. So you don't want to get in trouble with accounting. All right, we're gonna hit submit and let it run. At this point, it's going to go through and do its creation process. If we were to watch the EC2s, the VPCs, the subnets, you're going to see that those things get created. Like I said, though, this takes, a solid 30 minutes. I'm not going to have us sit here and watch this. So as part of this video, this will get sped up and we'll join it when it's done and then review what we have. So we had a real life, example of something that could happen during a CFT deployment. As you can see here, it says create failed, following resources failed to create a couple of VPCs. And if I scroll down in this events section of this particular nested CFT, I will get to the detail and reason why. And right here, create failed, Spoko 1, Spoko 3, resource handler, maximum number of VPCs has been reached. So this is something that could happen. So if you have a limit on the number of VPCs in your subscription, you may need to increase that before you can complete it successfully. So one of the nice things about what I had set up before, where I said, keep already provisioned resources regardless of failure, because I did that, it didn't automatically roll back my changes. So if I can fix this, which I'm going to try to do, if I can fix this temporary issue, which is because I have some other resources built in this subscription in Ohio, in this region, I should be able to go up here and simply go retry, and it will kind of continue where it left off and finish the full deployment for me. So I've removed those other VPCs now. I'm going to hit retry and we'll see what happens. So actually I have to go, as the error message says, I can't do the retry from the nested CFT. I have to do it from the root CFT, or the main CFT, which was the CloudGuard GWLB workshop, one that we created. And I'll hit retry on that one. And let's see how it goes. And retry initiated. All right, as you can see, the retry did appear to work. So we have we should have a working environment. Full architecture has been built. We can take a peek real quick to show you what it had built, and then we'll just kind of jump into the parts of the demo to kind of walk you through EC2s. Let us sort by name. Yeah, so there's 3 gateways that it created as part of the gateway load balancer, auto scaling group, the management server. Here's the database, EC2 instance, a couple of shared services, EC2s, each in their own subnet, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Can't see that from the screen. And then another EC2 in the web tier. So we jump back to that original diagram. Here's the 2 shared services. EC2s, I believe. No, it's the database. Sorry, this is the database EC2. Here's the 2 shared services. Yeah, here's the 2 shared services, EC2s, each in their own subnet. And we'll, we can show different examples of this. We won't actually touch the web tier one today, just for the sake of time. But it looks like it did complete successfully. So jumping back to the CloudFormation piece for a second, and going back to my original, the main CFT, so to speak. And if I want to kind of make this a cleaner view, I can check the box or check the toggle here for view nested, and it reduces all the clutter. I can just select on this guy. I'm going to click on him and click on outputs. And as part of the CFT, we create this output section, which gives us a whole bunch of useful information. So even though this is all here, some of this stuff may take a little bit longer to finish configuring, like the management server does do some first-time configuration on its own before it's fully spun up, but everything else is pretty much ready to rock and roll. But yeah, this is all relevant stuff for the demo and for the workshop, which is all in here. So, just to kind of continue. So not only did we, show you how to grab the CFT, use CloudFormation to build that environment for you. Like I said, you can skip through all this stuff since it's really in regards to the immersion days, which we aren't doing today in this case. But it does give some interesting, it does give you some good step-by-step if you want to go through that process. That's up to you. Some of it applies, some of it doesn't. And here's that disclaimer. This is not, especially the security policy, it's not meant for production environments. Obviously, you need to define that in conjunction with your security team. Just be smart. Do it like you would normally do a security policy, etc. The one we're building is for lab purposes only. But even still, we do include a default cleanup rule, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. So anyway, scrolling through this really fast, and I'll show this to you at the end. yeah, just kind of showing you the testing procedures. It does walk you through step by step how to access each individual piece, and any gotchas that come along the way. So we will do that here in a second. All right, so now that I've bought myself some time, we can go back in and connect into the management server and configure a security policy so that we can get some traffic flowing here. I'll probably get my hand slapped a little bit. I'm pretty sure this is correct, that beginning with 81.10, we now have a web smart console, which is awesome. We don't need to install a separate, at least for the purposes of what we're trying to do today, we don't need to install a separate smart console on a Windows box. The web smart console is limited to an extent, but we can do policy, look at logs, all the really core operational pieces can be done via the web console. So we will get to show you an example of that right now. So I'm going to go ahead and connect to my smart console. Let the security finish. And hopefully type in my password correctly. TFT and the configuration, it automatically attached my gateways, my gateway load balancer, gateways, my farm. You can see they're in different subnets. So there's cross availability zone coverage. You're going to be covered there for high availability and resiliency, etc. So nothing manual needs to be done. Now we can just simply create a security policy and push it, and we'll be pretty much ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and create that policy based off of the configuration in our workshop. And actually went back one step. It's at the very bottom of this screen. So if you want to follow along or see what I did, you're just going to go down to the checkpoint security policy setup section of the initial setup page. And this is the rule set that I'm going to create as part of this workshop, as part of this under the hood session. And when I'm done, this should be the finished policy. All right, policy is created. Install and publish and install the policy. And we have success. That's good. If you jump back to the CloudFormation and to our outputs, you'll see the various ways to connect into our EC2s that are in the various spots in our architecture for testing flows. So let's go ahead and just grab this first one as a starting point. So you see there the port 8022. We're using NLB to do the forwarding for us on the ports to get us into where we need to go. Copy that. There we go. Finally, we had the combination of the right port and the right certificate. Too many in my folder to choose from, and now I'm into the database EC2. So if I look at the master diagram, I'm on this particular EC2 in the 10.100.0 subnet. And now I'll have access east-west into these spokes and also egress from here outbound and have full security. So the traffic's going to flow, into the transit gateway, which then goes into the transit gateway attachment, which then defaults into the gateway load balancer endpoint, which does the magic, sends it back to us, and then continues on to its destination. So let's go back to that box for a second. Let's just do a real easy test. Let's do a simple curl to yahoo.com. Go look at some logs. And this is the box I'm on, the 206. Going out to Yahoo. And you see the yahoo.com DNS resolution, and all these are more of the same. So if I want to go east-west, jump back to my CloudFormation and find out the local IP of one of the shared services boxes. So let's do this one. Now I'm going, if we go back to the diagram, now I'm going east-west traffic, going from here to, from here to the 10.100.4. And he's, once again, going into the gateway load balancer endpoint for inspection, getting the no-go, pass or fail or accept or drop decision based on the security policy, just like a normal firewall, and it makes that decision for us. So if we look at this again, look at the logs, refresh our logs, and here is our log showing that traffic flow. So that's it in a nutshell. So bottom line, combination of things, some of you have already probably seen some of our gateway load balancer workshops or webinars, deep dives, etc. We wanted to, refresh your memory on that, but also show you how easy it is to configure in my opinion, relatively complex architecture that would take a long time to build from scratch using CloudFormation templates in this case. Eventually we'll do Terraform to build a very complex, highly resilient, best practice really design in about 30 minutes. So whether it's for a POC, for your own sandbox testing, whether you're a partner looking to build out an environment for a customer, you can use this as a baseline, as a guide to get started. It's not, you wouldn't want to just drop it and leave it for obvious reasons, but it's going to get you a long way in the right direction. So hopefully this was helpful. I'm trying to think of any other gotchas I wanted to show you. But that's it in a nutshell. All the blades work for the standard stuff, and we'll talk about that here in the presentation as we wrap up. But that is the deal. So bottom line is, use the CFTs we're providing for you. Reminder that we have the CloudFormation templates SK that has all these different solutions already built for you that we maintain on your behalf, so you're not having to build things from scratch. And if I can do it, an old guy old IT guy, you can do it. Promise you. And don't be afraid to give it a try. Test it out. Oh, one last thing I will say. So once when you're done, and in my case, I'm just going to say I'm done for now. You can, as for official final cleanup, you just go back to your CFT, assuming that you're not going to leave this in production or leave this for further testing. Go back to your CFT, go back to CloudFormation, go back to the one you named, and click delete. And in my case, I said, I said disable, or I said enable termination protection. So now I'm just doing that double check. Yes, I'm okay with deleting that stack. Hit save, hit delete again, delete the stack. All this stuff we built, everything, because it was built with the CloudFormation template, is now going to get deleted, or for a better way of saying it, cleaned up. So you're not going to have any residue left over, things charging you or charging against your AWS subscription. If we jump real quick, I can show you that in action since it's active. Yep, so that same CFT we did before to build everything is now turned into a delete in progress. So it's basically taking everything we had done before and just reversing it, deleting it. All right, that's it, guys. I'll see you back in the formal presentation. All right. So a lot of great questions. I'm going to actually, for part of this, I'm actually going to share my screen. Could get a little interesting, but it should work, I think. Jonathan, keep me honest if this looks horrible or doesn't quite do the trick, but I will do my best.
Okay.
1 second.
And thank you for the great questions, by the way.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And you can definitely do the lab after this webinar.
Yeah,
it's going to be
correct.
permanent.
So exactly. That's the beauty. I mean, that the CFT is really, when you think about it, think about it in terms, and I don't want to, I don't want to assume what, your background and what you've done in the past, but say, you were given a batch file back in the day, or given some sort of script that does some sort of automated task that you shared amongst friends or amongst colleagues. Maybe it's been passed down over the generations and updated and fixed. That's what a CFT is. That's basically what it is. It's a CFT that all it's doing is taking away the manual point and click steps you would do in its place. That's really it. That's really it. So all the things we build, you could do it via point and click and via the AWS console, or via the CLI, via command line, et cetera. But with a CFT, it's automatic, and that's the beauty of it. So, all right, so let's try this. I'm going to share this screen. Do you see? Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, that works. Wait, yeah, that's it. That works. Okay, so I'm going to try to go in order here, and I got most of the answers. Some of them I had to go offline and ask some other folks that I know real well that know these things a little even better than I do. So for SD-WAN or direct connect integrations into this environment, yes, it would just be another spoke into the transit gateway. No other special routing. It's just another spoke that you steer into us. In regards to the upgrades, and yeah, I apologize, I skipped that one. That was the first one. So if you look at my screen, I have an admin guide. And so this is also there's a link to this guide in the attachments list. And I believe I called it CloudGuard Network Security for AWS Gateway Load Balancer Deployment Guide. It's the same link that you see here. And one of the sections of the deployment guide is updating the auto scaling group. And there's a couple of options here. I won't go into the gory detail, but it's pretty decent instructions, I thought. I did review it really quickly before I wanted to share it, but it looks not terrible. In general, feel free to, I don't know if you caught my email address at the beginning. If you get stuck on something, or if you reach out to me, reach out to your SE, reach out if you have a cloud overlay that you have contacts with. All those folks can help get you past some of these questions as well. Back to the questions real quick. Regarding ingress, how do you route to multiple backend hosts? So this was a complex answer, a little more complex answer. So 1 second. There's a couple different ways we can address that. So you can do an ingress VPC, and actually, a couple of things I thought of as I was getting answers and thinking about this closer. There's also another SK that's mentioned in the attachments list that is CloudGuard Network Security for AWS Gateway Load Balancer Architecture Options, which is this guy. And in here, it takes a little bit different tactic than a typical SK or the deployment guide. And it has kind of use cases, and it gives, best for, or, where it makes sense to deploy this type of configuration. And I think this might cover your ingress solution, your ingress question, how to do that properly. But the other answer I got offline was you could do an ingress VPC with Gateway Load Balancer endpoints. This will allow you to use the load balancer to provide the public IP, and then we can see the incoming traffic. If you want to use an internet gateway and IGW and public subnets in the spokes to associate elastic IPs to workloads directly, then you'll need to deploy a Gateway Load Balancer endpoint per VPC and ingress routing. So hopefully that made sense. And then let's see. Question back over here. SSL offload. Okay. This is also mentioned in this use case here about using ALBs. The other answer I got offline, I think it's the same thing. You can deploy a load balancer in the ingress VPC, since the load balancer needs a route to reach the workloads when they're not in the same VPC, and you can see the offloaded traffic, but they're all going to be natted by the load balancer. So that's the one drawback a little bit, is the source IP is going to be, I believe, the load balancer IP and not the real IP. SSL inspection is not supported on the Gateway Load Balancer auto-scaling group natively. All right, what's the difference between to have a security VPC, I'm pretty sure that means VPC, with the ingress and the egress instead, to have it on a dedicated VPC. So it's really just a design consideration and complexity of your environment. So if you're in a single region with a relatively simple architecture, you don't need to use a transit gateway with separate VPCs. You can just have a single simple design, and that's also mentioned in this SK that I'm showing. Actually, step 1, version 1, talks about that simplified security VPC standalone configuration. So if you're single region, relatively simple deployment, you can get away with just doing that design. And it's really a cost thing, because AWS charges for traffic transiting that transit gateway, and that's kind of the biggest difference. Obviously, transit gateway has its place and has its benefits, but it does come with a cost. All right, if you don't provision the gateway's public IPs, yes, you can configure a route table on the auto-scaling gateway subnet to allow use of a net gateway or point it on-prem. So that should be your workaround for not having a public IP on those security gateways. Hopefully that made sense. So you can set a route table for the gateway subnet to allow use of net gateway or an on-prem or point on-prem. If you don't provision the gateway, that's the same thing. I might have hit the wrong one, so I apologize if I whacked your question in there, guys. Monitor restricted policy. So good question. So that is definitely a built-in policy that I don't, it's not the one you want to push as the one you're using to define your security policy for traditional traffic. The monitor restrictive is really more for, I believe, management communications or API communications to learn about health checks and when to spin up new devices, etc., versus a security policy you're going to push that actually impacts end user traffic or web traffic, etc. So I'm not sure if that answers your question directly, but if you looked at the video, when I pushed policy, I actually didn't push this one. I pushed my own, which was just the standard policy. And have we seen customers integrate gateway load balancer into an existing environment? I'd be shocked if we haven't. So I apologize. I don't know, like personally, with my own eyes. But it's been around. It's been a very, very popular option, and I'm just trying to think of the mechanics of it or the logistics of inserting gateway load balancer into an existing environment. And the reason that it gives me, I think it's definitely doable, is simply because at the end of the day, you're just changing your routes into a different place, so to speak, for that inspection. So I think, and you can do it, and because of that, you can do it gradually. So I'm 95 to 99% sure the answer is yes, but with my own eyes personally in my role, I don't see that, but I'm fairly confident that that's accurate, that we do have existing customers that have run it or have seen the customers deploy it into an existing environment. All right, I think I showed you the SK. If I didn't, it should be in the attachments list. Everything I showed, for the most part, is in there. The CloudFormation templates, SK is there, deployment guide, checkmates, yeah, all that stuff is in there. Is the lab to build this in our own environment or a Checkpoint lab environment? So the CFT in general, unless we're explicitly, unless you're explicitly signed up for some sort of immersion day or workshop where we're telling you, here's your login information to get to an environment, to a sandbox environment, you will need to have your own environment to run it inside of. But we are, providing you the CFT to do that. Hopefully that makes sense. One thing to mention is that you have to specify the blades. They'll be enabled when ASG creates a new instance. Yep. Nope. Good point. Thank you for pointing that out. And yep, there we go. There's an existing person, somebody that dropped in a gateway load balancer setup for their existing setup. So there's the answer. Nothing better than the real thing. Thank you.
Balancer or transit gateway?
What's that?
I think they said they created a transit gateway attachment.
Well, they were just saying that they were just kind of expanding at the fact that they did it, and they just used a transit gateway to help with the steering of the traffic.
Got it.
That helped them migrate to it. I don't think you'd have to do that way, but that's definitely one way for sure. Oh, and I wanted to show, somebody was asking about where to download I'll just show it manually too. Yep, so it was in logistics, no, initial setup. So very top of initial setup, right in the top right corner. All right, so I will stop sharing my screen.
And you got another question.
Another question.
For Kubernetes deployment.
Kubernetes deployment for all, that all is automated, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure this is the best option. Yes, correct. I agree. Absolutely. we didn't even talk about tagging and all the stuff you can do to help take that even further, take what we did and take that a step further. So absolutely. All right, so limitations really quickly. I know we're getting short on time. We're already actually at the hour. I mentioned earlier, direct VPN terminations not supported, but you can definitely terminate VPN directly on the Trinity gateway, or build a dedicated VPN pair of checkpoints that are hanging off of the transit gateway as a spoke, kind of like the SD-WAN example earlier on. No IPv6 support. That was actually asked somewhat recently internally, and no support yet, but it is on the roadmap. In regards to feature blade support, it is the same feature support that we have and limitations as a bridge mode deployment. So if you're searching for what is supported, what is not, that's the quickest and easiest way to look it up and see what's going to be supported. And NAT is also not supported. This is just a review. The last thing that we went through all of these already. So the last thing, one last shout out for Checkmates. Please, if you're not already on Checkmates, use it. It's a great forum. There's a lot of really, really smart people on there. Great way to give direct feedback to R&D. They listen to that stuff. They look at that stuff. They read it. And the more pictures you can provide, if you can do video, even better, screenshots with arrows, like explicitly telling them, hey, this is broke or this is messed up, or it would be better if it was this way, please let them know. And that's a great way to do that. And that goes across the entire product line, not just CloudGuard. All right, Q&A we killed, so that's good. Stay tuned for more of these under the hood sessions on a range of topics. And please let us know. I'll jump back to the first screen so you can get our email addresses again, in case you want to email us directly. Here we go. If you want to jot those down, feel free to send us ideas, feedback, etc. Yeah, that's fine. All right. We'd love to hear it, because we definitely want to do things that is of interest to the community at large. So appreciate your time. Have a good evening, afternoon, rest of your day, etc., depending on where you are. Take care. Jonathan, any last parting thoughts, comments?
Comments, just to say thanks, Jeff, and thank you for everyone for joining. We really appreciate it. We think this is a very exciting new way for our customers to deploy cloud network security for AWS Gateway Load Balancer. I'm going to tell you a funny story before I finish the webinar. Is that I was in a call earlier with Microsoft, and I was wearing an AWS reInvent T-shirt, and the guy from Microsoft said, he's gonna have to take me shopping to go get some new clothes. So that was my mess up for the week. But I suppose if that was my worst one for the week, I think I'm in good.
For the record, I have a Checkpoint polo on, but nobody can see it because my video's not working.
Video's no way. You should just check out, I think it's Chrome settings. Anyway, thank you for joining the call. We really appreciate it. Anybody who's still listening, please feel free to send Jeff or me any requests, suggestions, kudos, criticisms, whatever you like. Looking forward to seeing you guys soon. Join the more of the Under the Hood series. We have new CloudGuard network security stuff coming out, launching in the next few weeks. So watch your emails, watch the press releases. Very exciting time. And Jeff, thank you very much for a great Under the Hood session. Well done.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye, everyone.